It is time to begin. Dear friends, please join in. To all of you who joined the meeting, we extend our warmest greeting. My name is Tamara Evans. I'm your Sergeant at Arms. I'll get the meeting started. I'm in charge of time alarms. Whether you're a guest or member, we will ask you to remember that our meetings start at 9 in the morning Pacific time. Every month we meet on Fridays, just the first and the third. We prepare inspiring speeches and enjoy the spoken word. Our club has noble goals and we offer many roles. Choose the role to your taste. There is no time to waste. Don't forget to change your name in accordance with your role. We all focus on the teamwork, for perfection is our goal. After every presentation, we provide evaluation with the best intent, just to help our members grow. Guests, you have to be prepared. You may also be called on. Everybody should contribute to Table Topics Marathon. Masters of Evaluation, dear members, welcome guests. We need your full attention, for we have a few requests. Your cell phones should be muted and the ether not polluted with the sounds of pesky pets. And there are some more requests. Your unnecessary actions can be looked at as distractions. Let them stay behind the scene. For a while, turn off the screen. But as soon as you are done, turn the camera back on. We would like to see your faces. Now that everybody's taken places, our president, Sandra Savage, charming, humorous, and more, cannot wait to take the floor.
Thank you, Tamara. What a poet. I love it. You should write that to corporate and share it with everybody. Well, thank you all for attending today. We have a short meeting, which means we get to have a little bit more fun with our table topics and snap evaluations. And we also are going to go over a little bit of business. Now, Judith is our Toastmaster of the day today, and she picked a fabulous theme for the day, which is to restart, reset, and refocus. I thought I'd be a poet myself and take on one more word, and that is renew. It is dues renewal time. And in fact, it's very important to our club that we get as many renewals by the end of the month as possible so that we can continue to earn points towards being a distinguished club every year. That's our goal. Also, we need to have you commit. I'd like to ask everybody here that they commit one level to MoE, at least one level in the next 12 months. Then we will easily make our DCP points. Those are added up by officers getting trained, dues being renewed, levels being achieved, and new members added to our fold. So please give a commitment to Judith and I on your level that you're going to complete this year. And if you would like to have a one-on-one session with myself or Judith, we can sit down and help you plan out how to use a path towards your own personal goal. I currently am working on a couple of new goals. I'm going to use one path to finish my novel and market it. And the other one is going to be on how to set up a community garden and how to set up a team. And I'm actually looking for team members. So if you would like to be part of my focus group and work on that path with me, you'll be able to achieve projects completed as well. With that, we don't have any guests today, so I'm going to turn the microphone over to Judith at this point, our Toastmaster of the day. Judith.
Hi, everyone. So our theme is restart, reset, and refocus. So what is the key to restart? Well, we all know. You press Alt plus F4, right? Well, that's the easy part. Then you can restart. And now the refocus is a different story. So let's see how it happens. What does that mean that we need to restart? And why do we need to reset? Louis Hay, who was a metaphysical lecturer and teacher, some of you may know her, and if you don't, you should look her up. She said something that in order to restart, reset, you have to get rid of the clutter. One of the greatest things is when you look in your house, your apartment, and when you get rid of the clutter, you immediately feel lighter and better, don't you? Well, I do. I love to get rid of the clutter. So that's what we're going to, I don't know, we'll talk about this, or we'll do a little more of this, is how to restart, self-reflection, self-evaluation. It's all that it's important for us to refresh our life, restart and reset. But before we do all of this, then we'll have our educational moment by David Thomas, I think. Robert, so many names. And David will tell us something about restarting, self-reflection, or whatever else he thinks that we should know about. Okay, the floor is yours, David.
I didn't listen to my dad very often, but then he didn't have very much to say. But one day, in the middle of a party, he took me aside and said, "Dave, just refocus and watch out for your P's and Q's." I wasn't sure what he meant. But I said, "Dad, what do you mean?" And he said, "You haven't used the word pleased to the people here tonight, have you? And have you used the word thank you? You're behaving like a little brat, a baby boy, not like my grown-up son." "Yes, Dad." And I paused. There was nothing more to say. But I walked away quietly. And for the rest of that evening, and for much of my life, I tried to behave and use my P's and Q's. I wonder if that's an expression that you've ever come across. Probably not, unless you were brought up in the 1950s in Great Britain. Many of you come across it. Do you know what remember your P's and Q's might mean? You need them also for our speech making. P actually stands for a young child, for please. The child needs to learn the word please. Please, Mum, please, Dad, please, Uncle. And to pause sometimes and look at people. And Q is thank you. Thank you is often missed out, even as an adult. So let's see how this fits into the speech-making world. I was lucky enough to have as my mentor somebody called Sandra Savage. And of course, when I took my first draft to show her, and she said, "Oh, David, that's a wonderful personal story. You've already realized that a good speech involves a personal story. I'd like to hear that again. But you overused the word you. Sorry, you overused the word I. It was all, I did this and I did that, and where was the word you? And where were your pauses? So I never knew if you were asking me a question. I never heard the word we. So try it again, but with some questions to engage the audience so they have time to think, to really think, because you're asking them quite difficult questions about how they feel and what they would do in that situation. And then, as an aside, you can mention, yes, well, I did this and I did that. But what would you have done? And take it from there. And my second version was rather better. And the third version was, I must admit, the best speech I've ever made. It was to another club, and they were rather pleased with me. And they had listened, and they had had time to answer. So there we are. Listen to your P's. Put in far more U's and far fewer I's. For example, how would you feel in that situation? And what would you do? And I was talking about getting into trouble and a difficult time of my life. And I could have gone on saying, and I did this and I did that and I. But I changed it, put in plenty of yous. And what would you do in that situation? I wonder if you had thought what you would do. Perhaps it's happened to you, or it will happen to you tomorrow. I wonder what you would do. And as I look at this wonderful queue of intelligent people, I think many of you have done or will suffer difficulties, but you would listen and you would thank people for the help that you gave them. So listen and ask and listen and thank them with the P's and Q's of life. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you so much, David. Of the P's and Q's. I actually didn't know what the Q was, frankly, and so now I know. Okay, so thank you for your speech. Now we are moving on to our program, and I like to introduce the role player, as they call this in some places. So, John Graham, you are the Zoom master. And so what are you?
So I will be restarting, reset, and refocusing at each individual speech and speaker. Thank
Okay. Hopefully not too often. As far as the restarting concerned. Thank you. Let's see. Next, your glasses look kind of funny. It's not over your ear. Anyway, I'm just saying, just in case.
I could spice with crack.
Okay, Sheila is our general evaluator, so tell us what you are going to do.
Yes, thank you. On the third premise, refocus, I'm going to focus on one thing to suggest for our roles as evaluators, Toastmaster. No one's free, but I will only mention one thing and focus on one thing.
Thank you so much. That's always a very, very good thing to do. And our timer is Sandra Savage. Oh, sorry, the grammarian popped up here. Okay, sorry. All right, you were going to be next one. Okay. All right, John White, you're on.
No problem. I'm focused. I will be the word grammarian and the counter. I don't think we really do that. And I will also offer the word of the day. Sandra already offered. There were so many re's out there. I figured I would do renew. So please use renew. I will put it in the chat. It's a verb. There's two uses or meanings. Resume an activity after interruption, like the parents renewed their campaign to save the school. And then there's another version of extend for a further period the validity of a license, subscription, or contract. An example of that, which I think is more germane to this meeting, is she renewed her commitment to MoE and she never looked back. So please use the word of the day. And as the word grammarian, I will be looking out for felicitous and offensive uses of the English language, and I will share my report at the end of the meeting. Back to you,
Thank you.
Toastmaster.
Thank you, John. I hope you don't have any offensive ones. Anyway, okay, thank you. So Sandra is our timer. So put yourself in the corner when you're ready.
Okay.
We can't hear you.
And then I will be going through the times for today's speeches, evaluations, table topics, and snap evaluations. And when you're at the minimum amount of time, I'll do green. The optimum is yellow, and red is wrap it up. So I'll be doing that. I'll be a busy gal during table topics, so don't pick on me tomorrow. And so we'll let you know, and then I'll give my reports in the chat versus a verbal report of everybody's times.
All right, thank you so much. And now we're going to go to our first and only speakers we have. And that is Trudy Young. And Trudy's evaluator is Harold G. So please tell us about her speech.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. And
no, just hold on a second. Harold is going to say something about your speech first.
Good morning, Judith, our president, our with the Toastmaster for today. My understanding, her speech topic, emerging trend to protect the elements of the natural environment. Emerging trend to protect the elements of the natural environment. This is part of a Pathways speech. And I believe this, I'm not sure what part of Pathways it is. Maybe Trudy can share that with us.
yes, I can.
Okay, Trudy, how long is your speech? We don't know.
5 to 7 minutes. I hope to wrap it up by 7 minutes. That's what I hope to wrap it up. 5 to 7 minutes and not go over. Yeah. Yeah. And my pathway is dynamic leadership. Okay.
I think this is the second of your other speech.
Yeah, it's second evaluation. Thank you.
Okay, the stage is yours.
Okay, good morning, Toastmasters. First, I have to apologize for coming in a bit late. And as Sandra said, you have to reset. So I reset my number again. So you can, I'm starting now. The topic of my speech is legal personhood. When you hear the word legal personhood, who knows the word legal personhood? Who has heard it before? Can I see a show of hands? I haven't seen any. Well, I'll try to explain it the best I can. Legal personhood means it's a term that is given to nature. And the term is given to nature to be equivalent at what it would be for man. It means legally protecting the elements in the world. And the elements is meant the water, the air, and the earth. Now, what you see behind me is a beautiful example of the elements. You have a mountainous part. I am in Labrador, and within Labrador, you can see in the far section, if I can point it out, on my right-hand side, on my left-hand side, you see right at the top here, you see the river moving downwards. And that river is a pristine river, one of the many, many clean water rivers in Canada that Canada is very famous for. And it needs to be protected for a particular reason, and I will go through that. So legal personhood means whatever that needs to be protected, that it belongs to the element, is given the same rights as man, the legal rights as man. As you know, the elements cannot speak. So therefore, policies are put in place and laws are put in place to give it equivalent legal protection as a human being. So we look at the rivers as being a person like you and I. How did it come about? It came about when industry was expanding and they needed to improve the economy, and a lot of the land in the northern region of Canada was being used to produce electricity, and water produces one of the cleanest electricity in the world. So the river that you see behind me is called the Magpie River. It flows from Labrador right down to Quebec and enters the Gulf of St. Lawrence with a big plunge. In that environment around the river, you have a lot of indigenous people living. They don't live in the cities, they live in the far north or in areas where a lot of city people don't put themselves to live because it's inconvenient, they may say. Anyway, they decided to build a dam there, and that big dam produced electricity for advancement of the economy. The indigenous people see that as an offensive act. The indigenous people who live in that region for many, many, many years have learned from their ancestors how to protect the land, the river, and how to hunt. They only take from the land what is needed for them to use. And it's very important for them to continue with that, so they see the elements as their ancestors. Their ancestors are long gone, but over the period of centuries that they have learned this habit from the ancestors, they maintain it to this day. So the legal personhood has been put in place in 2021 in Canada. Some document says 2022. I use 2022 as the most recent one I read to be given to the Magpie River as the first ecosystem in Canada to gain that status. And that was very, very important. As I said, they learned it from their ancestors and they respected what the ancestors handed to them. So they see the elements as their ancestors and protecting it as a human being. But how did this come about? How did it really happen? The indigenous people, they had environmentalists and themselves. It's a global organization and it helps to push them forward to protect the land. They eat off the land and unpolluted. The rivers, they fish on the rivers and they hunt. And they do it in a very respectful manner. And that's very important. So together with environmentalists, they have learned that Colombia in 2018 was able to give the Amazon legal personhood. So that was very encouraging for the indigenous people of Canada. And they obtained that legal personhood for themselves in 2022. That was wonderful. But how do they stick to that point? And keeping it that way, the hydroelectric wanted to the hydro company, the Quebec Hydro, wanted to build a bigger dam so that they can produce more electricity to enhance the economy. So that's the reason why they went about it fighting to get legal personhood for the river, and they got it. And that really, really helped them. So they weren't able to be very destructive and to disrespect the river. But what they were able to do, this Hydro-Quebec still continue with producing electricity, but they weren't able to expand and destroy the area. But what the indigenous people did, because they were making money, the Hydro-Quebec, there were local people in their environment was able to also enhance themselves with this pristine river. So they enhanced their industry, which is tourism, and made it worldwide known to everybody so they can live equivalent to those who were making money off them. Back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judy. And now we'll have, I think, 90 seconds, if I am correct, to give Trudy some thoughts about her speech. Thank you, everyone. Our next session of our part of our meeting is table topics. And who is better to conduct a table topic session than our resident poet, Tamara. Tamara, welcome.
Okay, thank you. Today, everybody will have a chance to refocus from being a speaker to being an evaluator, snap evaluator, because we are few in number and everybody will contribute to the table topics marathon. So please get ready to be asked to answer the question and to evaluate, and then later on, vice versa. I tried to find the quotations connected with our topic today, and I'm sure it will be a good food for thought and a good practice for us as SNAP evaluators. Okay, so the first quote is, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. And we will ask Sheila to share her thoughts about this.
Can I have a request? I'd like to be an evaluator. I seem to be historically chosen as the speaker. And I'd love practice evaluating. So if you could.
Да,
and then
I can switch. Then we will ask Harold. I will repeat the question, Harold. I will repeat. Start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can.
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. If you want to succeed in this world, you have to take what you have to work with, your abilities, your insight, and believe you can do it. Add one little bit, one extra ingredient. Think big. Start small. That's right. Start where you are. Do what you can. But keep that lofty dream in your mind that you can be great. And work at it each day, believing you can do it. Now, you may say, oh, that's too much. You're going into denial. You're delusional. Stop. Look at yourself, refocus, start again. Be persistent, be resilient, and keep going. And keep that dream in mind. Focus on the big you. The big you after trying again and again to reach your goal, whatever that goal is. Let's keep in mind, I know we always think about money. Joy, contentment, happiness, how can you buy those things? Even if you're driving around in your Rolls Royce, you may be unhappy. You want to have some way to help other people and at the same time help yourself. And you want to do great things. Start small, think big, be relentless in your efforts. Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Harold. Now, Sheila volunteered to be a SNAP evaluator. Welcome, Sheila.
Thank you, Tamara. And thank you, Harold. You always engage me. It's your voice, it's your sound. You have a sound of mystery, like, what am I going to say next? You have this tone that just draws me in. You could be on a radio show. The voice draws me in, and your creativeness with the stop, use, and do, you came right out with it. My one suggestion, I'm just going to be one focused. I didn't hear the word renew. It would have been a perfect opportunity to use that word. You did use refocus, which is good. I'll give you points for that. But I know you could slip the word of the day in there. Now, your advice is well taken. I'd like to be reminded of that daily, of what your wonderful advice was to others. It was very you-focused, and I applaud you for this SNAP Table Topics.
Thank you. Now we will do the next quote. Listen carefully, please. Although no one can go back and make a brand new start, anyone can start from now and make a brand new ending. We will ask Judith to comment on that, please.
Well, Madam Table Topic Master, that is actually so true, although I am sometimes focusing past times and other times, and as opposed to thinking about that we are where we are, and we can always start something new and renewing ourselves. It's certainly takes some time. It's not an easy thing to do. It's always easy when people say, you know, You can't just forget what you're doing. Just start again. Tomorrow is another day, and then you can start your whole new life. Well, it's not so simple just to start your something. And I think that starting something needs self-reflections. It needs to think about it. What is it that actually we want to do, and how accepting ourselves. Talking about the fact is that we have to accept who we are, where we are, not where we've been, but to say, okay, this is what I am, that's what I am, I can't really change that. So that all I can do is to refocus and see what we could possibly do with our lives tomorrow. That's, I think it's all we can do. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Interesting ideas. Now we will ask David to give a snap evaluation, please.
Fascinating. I was struck by the way that she quietly seized on the subject. She was immediately clear about the question, or at least she seized it in a way that she understood it and took it and made it clear. I think it would have been a little better if she had expressed the need to reach out to others and ask for help, because maybe it's just me, but I've never been able to refocus and reset without consciously trying to reach out to other people and sometimes get some really valuable advice and help and support from them. But as you've said, Judith, you need to keep looking at a brand new way ahead, and that takes a lot of determination and reflection and thought and a strong sight as well. So well done indeed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Now, the next quote. It's pretty long. Maybe I'll repeat it twice, but please focus on it. We must be willing to get rid of the life we have planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us. The old skin has to be shed before the new one can come. We will ask John White. I will repeat the question, the quote. We must be willing to get rid of the life we have planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us. The old skin has to be shed before the new one can come. Please, John.
Thank you for that. That's a wonderful quote, and it really resonates with me. I'm at an age where I'm still looking in my past to the glory years when life was easier. I was the golden boy. I was achieving things. I was acquiring things. I was marrying and divorcing. I was just living this life. And now I'm transitioning to a period where I want to look forward optimistically. I want to shed the skin, but the skin, as Judith mentioned, these life wisdoms, these points of view are so simple, yet so hard to live. And so I want to be an optimistic, enthusiastic guy ready to renew at the ripe age of 64, but I find I have a nostalgic bone that longs for the old, more exciting and fun days, if you will. So thank you for that. I'm reminded that this is the way to go. That is, they say something about like you can learn from the past, but it's no place to live. So I've shed my skin. I still remain clothed because it is a Toastmaster meeting. And I thank you for allowing me to pontificate and think about that. It's great words of advice. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Now we will ask Trudy to give a snap evaluation, please.
Thank you. My snap evaluation for John will be, he shed his clothing, not really, but he shed all the bad habits he was doing, which would resonate with me in many ways. So you give me a lesson there. You refocus by leaving the past behind you. And you also try to renew yourself by learning from what you gained in the past. And mine is very short because that's how I see it. I think you can expand more and share a lot more with others. And not only for yourself, but expand more with people around you. I don't know if I'm clear with that. Yes?
Thank you. Thank you, Trudy. Okay, and now there will be a pretty short quote, but interesting. Listen, please. The self-renewing man never feels that he has arrived.
What?
The self-renewing man never feels that he has arrived. Okay, we will ask Sandra. Sandra, maybe somebody will do the timing for you, or you can do your own timing, but we would like to know what you think about this, please.
Can I ask you to repeat it one more time?
Sure. The self-renewing man never feels that he has arrived.
Never feels he has a right.
Arrive somewhere.
Well, I am optimistic that I never arrive at the end myself, which is not realistic. But I like the idea that you can give yourself permission to reinvent yourself, to renew what is important in your life and refine it from there so that you become a better person going forward rather than staying stagnant by not changing, becoming so rigid in your ways that you can't consider alternatives. I think it's important for us to give ourselves permission to try something new, to not stay in that rut like the previous question, but to renew and rebuild and look forward to the future without hesitation, because there is an end. Don't think about that. Think about every day and the next day as a chance to renew and redo your life till you find a good fit, so that you can sit back, like John said, and enjoy the glory days, not from the past, but what you have planned for tomorrow. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful ideas. Okay, thank you, Sandra. And we will ask John Graham to give a snap evaluation for that, please. We can't hear you.
Am I timing myself too? So a little bit much there. You know, you mentioned some good points there. I guess my thoughts, when it comes down to it, Sandra, based upon the Tao of life and yin and yang, you know, the fact that we have to kind of accept what's happening, and yet move on every day. I heard you say that. I think you used some of the terms refocus, but where few of us are using renewal, which is what John was talking about. So I think that the concept of what you were saying was renewal, but you never actually said that. So that's one thing I would add. But I got good things from what you were saying. And optimizing and moving forward and let's see, choosing every day to look at life in different ways. And I guess that's what I would say. Thank you very much, Sandra. Good job.
Thank you. Now it's time for refocusing because everybody has already been asked to do something. Now you will have to refocus. You will be asked to do different things. Okay, and this will be the next quote. What's so fascinating and frustrating and great about life is that you are constantly starting over all the time, and I love that. This time we will ask Sheila to share her thoughts and comments about this. I can repeat. What's so fascinating and frustrating and great about life is that you are constantly starting over all the time, and I love that.
Thank you. Constantly starting over, and I love that. Is that true of you? I wonder. Sometimes we get stuck in a rut, like we're starting over, but we're doing the same exact thing, expecting different results. You've heard that before. So we could refine and renew and refocus ourselves, but that involves change, and change is hard for people. It really is. It hurts. It's difficult. It's challenging. It's painful. So do we want to put ourselves through that pain to see the end of that road or that journey where we arrive at a better place and we're helping others more and we're helping ourselves more and we're helping the world more? That's hard to do. It may be beautiful and challenging, and that's great to start over, but for a lot of us, it's really not. So if I may be a little bit of a naysayer on that saying and say that's great for the positive person that can go through change and start anew every day and say, I made that mistake, but that's okay. I'm not going to make it again. I don't do the same thing twice. Wrong. We're only human. So I say cut yourself some slack and realize that if you do go through that journey and experience the pain, the challenge, and the tears, if you could just realize at the end, there is a rainbow. Back to you, Tamara.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Very exciting, very emotional. And now we will ask Harold to give the SNAP evaluation, please.
Speaking voice is so exciting to me. Enthusiastic, encouraging, uplifting. It has a quality to it that it is optimistic. And then she goes to point out, like most humans, we make mistakes. We start over and we do the same thing. And we tend to be harder on ourselves than maybe our neighbor will be hard on us. Each day is a new beginning, but it's not always an opportunity to start anew the way we perceive, and that's the key, the way we perceive it. And that's what she points out. And she is tolerant of herself. She believes, okay, I made a mistake. It's not the end of the world. I'm not going to condemn myself. I'm not going to cry over it. A mistake. I'll do better next time. And I like that. So many of us are hard on ourselves and are very mean. her message was uplifting. Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Such wonderful short speeches today, such interesting evaluations. Great. Thank you. Now the next one, we have two more quotes to discuss. Rest when you are weary, refresh and renew yourself, your body, your mind, your spirit. Then get back to work. And we will ask David to share his thoughts about it. I can repeat. Rest when you are weary. Refresh and renew yourself, your body, your mind, your spirit. Then get back to work.
Yes, indeed, Madam Topics Master. I agree with you wholeheartedly. This is something I have learnt to try to do in the last year, when my world was turned upside down and what I was expecting to do, to live the way I was expecting to use my life, spend my life, changed radically in the space of weeks. I don't know whether any of you have had to change your plans for life or whether they've been changed for you by a sudden illness, a change in life's employment or plans or partners. But it's very hard. It's very difficult. And you can't just cast off the past. You can only do it with determination, a clear view of the future, and a lot of sympathy from those you are close to, if you're lucky enough to have somebody who is or will be close to you, and seek out help. Try and find help, because nobody will know that you're hurting if you don't admit it, not just to yourself, but to other people. If there's nothing else I've learnt in the last year, it's that so many people are willing to listen, willing to help in all sorts of ways, not only in the Masters of Evaluation, but outside as well. But only if you look for it and remember the cues, remember to thank them, and then plow on and start again. Because you can change the way life treats you. The path may be different, but your life can change, perhaps for the better, perhaps in a new way. Take the hands of others and lead them as well in a fresh direction, and never look back. Always look forward. Thank you, Madam Topics Master.
Thank you, David. Wonderful. It sounds like a poem you were reciting. Thank you. And we will ask Judith now to give a snap evaluation, please.
Well, I think David has given us a recitation of his life, thinking about what he has experienced and how he dealt with it. And it's quite wonderfully said. And we have to think about sometimes how we include others in our lives to fulfill whatever it is that we are looking to do in our lives. And I think he's done a really good way of telling us about his thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. It's wonderful. I always admire how the SNAP evaluations go without preparation, without the ability to spend time to think deeply. People are able to give really good evaluation, notice interesting thoughts and ideas. Thank you, everybody. Okay,
I think we are coming to the end of this.
Really? Oh, good.
Yes, we are.
It went
It's
so
almost
well.
10 o'clock.
Okay, good. So we don't have for one more. Don't have time for one more. No.
No, we don't have time.
No. Okay. Thank everybody.
Thank you so much. This was really a wonderful session. And now we are going to our third part of our meeting, and that is have our general evaluator to take over.
Thank you, Judith. It is now the second portion, like Judith mentioned, of the general evaluator. And at this time, I would like to bring up an evaluator, our evaluator, Harold G., for our speaker number one and only speaker. Harold, take the stage, please.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator and fellow Toastmasters, and particularly Trudy. Trudy gave a speech entitled Legal Personhood. Legal Personhood. I'm going to use the code method to evaluate Trudy's speech. Now, the code method is Dr. Charlotte Noggle, who is a Zoom Master Toastmaster, introduced this to our club. Anyway, the code method is content, organization, delivery, effect, the effect it had on me. And that's the method. That's the way I'm going to evaluate Trudy's speech. Trudy spoke with enthusiasm and a sense of this utter joy about this concept about personhood. It was a mystery to me at first when I said personhood. Well, obviously we all are persons, but she was referring to the general element, as she put it, elements like rivers, mountains, streams, certain resources of the world can be made into personhood. This is something like a contemporary problem because so many of our natural resources are being degraded. Our rivers are being polluted, our oceans are overfished. But anyway, enough about me. She went on to point out personhood, defined it as an equivalent to legally making an element like a river a person and to protect it like a person. The speech, she goes on to give a story about how the indigenous people fought against the uses of expanding the river to the utility company wanted to make it a bigger dam so they can have more electricity. Now, while I did enjoy the speech, I thought maybe she would address more the conflict they have with natural contemporary corporations with the resources of the indigenous people. In the past, they simply have overwritten what they wanted to do. But we're talking about Trudy's speech. She developed this speech in such a way, and she delivered it with a certain amount of energy that was quite interesting in that it was encouraging. She mentioned that the forest becomes a personhood. A location can become a personhood. A natural resource, like a mind, becomes a personhood because it's a resource. Now, what was the common denominator that ties all this together? What was how could she have a really decisive conclusion to this speech? C, the content was interesting. Oh, the organization could have been different. I would like to have a dynamic opening. The body of the speech should point out three things. The conclusion, I thought, could have come back to the opening by pointing out these resources are all personhoods. And then the delivery I enjoyed very much. She spoke well. I can understand every word. E for code, effect. The effect on me was positive. I don't know what the effect on the audience, but the effect on me was positive. I enjoyed this speech, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Harold. And if I may swing back to the first portion of the meeting and invite Sandra for the timer report that we missed on the first half of the meeting. If you're ready for that, Sandra, please give us the timer report, and then we'll swing back to me after that.
Yes, I've also put it in the chat for you. Trudy went 7 minutes and 16 seconds. Very good. And then for table topics, Harold was 147. Sheila as a snap evaluator, 45 seconds. Judith, 129. David as her evaluator at 120. John White, 127. And Trudy as his evaluator for 50 seconds. Myself, I went 1 minute and 4 seconds. I believe, John, that's correct. So you had your clock up. And then, John, you evaluated me at 58 seconds. Sheila gave the next answer at 1 minute and 31 seconds. Harold evaluating her at 109. David giving a response at 3:03. And Judith as his evaluator for 50 seconds. And then Harold gave his evaluation of Trudy at 3 minutes and 50 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that timing is very important and deserves more than a chat, in my opinion. But I'm glad we have it in the chat as well. But timing is of the essence, as the saying goes. So thank you for that, Sandra. Now going forward, we talk to John, our grammarian, with your report.
Yes, thank you. Let me report on the use of the word of the day, and I may have overlooked some because there was a lot of re's flying around. Restore, renew, reset, and also renew. I thought that the Sheila, Judith, John Graham, myself, Harold, and Tamara did renew. If you did renew as well, I apologize, and I can renew and update my report. As far as uses of the English language, I must say I just have not a man crush, but a voice and vocabulary crush on Mr. Thompson. Whatever he says is so profound. It reminds me when Roger Moore, an ex-007 from the Bond days, he went on to a TV show and the host just asked him to read from the telephone book. Well, Mr. Thompson outperformed that, and it was more content worthy than a telephone booth. Have you used the word please and thank you, hearkening back to a day that I grew up in, where those were important words to be used? And then when he shared a personal victory, he said that his crowd, they were rather pleased with me. That was rather boastful from Mr. Thompson. I loved it. Trudy talked about this legal personhood and legal right of man and elements as their ancestors. I also like the use of indigenous. When I said offensive uses of the English language, what I meant was something that was problematic or wasn't as exemplary. Judith, you seemed to, Trudy, you seem to have a problem with hydroelectric, the word, the concept, how you wanted to introduce that. So the water was running down the stream, but the turbine wasn't moving. I guess what I'm trying to say on that. Tamara, please be ready. Food for thought. I mean, all the words are just wonderful. Sheila said that was very you-focused, incorporating the advice of the P's and Q's. That was her view of the P's and Q's. David, fascinating, quietly seized. I love that. I wouldn't usually see those two words together. Talked about reaching out to others for support, a common theme. Thank you for that. Determination, reflection, resolve. Trudy talked about leaving the past behind. Sandra, I liked your response. You really lean and hit certain words as you shared your thought. You talked about consider and then give yourself permission. And you talked about optimism and excitement. So while I like the words, I think the delivery really added emphasis and impact. John G talked about accepting and yet moving on. And he used the word of the day, renewed, renewal. He threw every version of it out there. Sheila, change, and I also like Trudy and Sheila and a couple other people who spoke to the difficulty to go beyond this, this beautiful, like, what are you going to do when you win the lottery? I love the person that says, I'm going to spend some money on me, and then talks about saving humanity. So I like the realism of that. Harold, tolerant of herself, she said of Sheila. I thought that was a beautiful phrase. And then talking about how we're hard on ourselves and very mean. In the area of bullying, you're saying we can be our own worst bully. And David, again, I keep on coming back to you. I'm sorry, sir. We can't cast off the past and talk about leaning on the sympathy of those who are close to us. Seek help. And then finally, I want to say, as much as I loved in today's proceedings, I think it was the SNAP evaluations that won the best part of the meeting, the content that was delivered on such short notice, seemingly almost commenting on the person before them and also expanding. It was wonderful. So that is my report, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, John, for that thorough report. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to refocus and only on one thing and one thing only. Today I will use description for people with one word, but let me explain. First of all, the role of the general evaluator is to evaluate all the roles. So I will start with Tamara, Sergeant of Arms. Wow, she blew us over and started the meeting right with the poetry. Now I challenge you all to be creative in your roles. That was be creative in a role, thinking outside the Zoom screen, if you will. So I applaud Tamara for her Sergeant of Arms role, that she just blew it out of the Zoom screen. Judith, Toastmaster of the meeting. I'll give her 2 words because it was so good. Energetic flow. Overall, she had an energetic flow. If the flow of the meeting doesn't go, the meeting goes nowhere. And she flowed it into one piece to another. It was seamless. Trust me, being a Toastmaster doesn't feel seamless in your head. You've got to practice that and apply it. So my applause to Judith. Harold, I applaud him for introducing a new evaluation method I hadn't heard of, the code method. I'm going to look that up. So thank you for that. It's a learning experience. I only give him one word that suggestion. If I were you, I would lay off, lightly touch the content, but don't reiterate the speech, because you ran out of time and you had wonderful things to say with your code and you didn't have time. You ran out, you went into the red somewhat. So I applaud you for introducing another evaluation method that I hadn't heard of before, and I've been around a long time. So thank you. John, as grammarian, one word for John's grammarian report was thorough. He was thorough. He was specific. That's what we do in our roles as grammarian. We're thorough and specific. One point of matter he did, though, that I thought I was being his grammarian report, he used the term nostalgic bone. I love that term. So he could have given himself kudos for that. I may use that. Nostalgic bone. I like that. It's funny, but it's descriptive. Well done, John. Very thorough report. And Tamara, again, a dual role player. She gets kudos for that, to play 2 roles for one thing. One word for her role as the super evaluator, table topics master, SNAP evaluator person was engaging. She engaged us. She was clear, she was organized, she was specific, she rolled with it when I said, no, I don't want to do that, but I'll do this. And it's like, well, talk about a naysayer, handling a difficult audience right there on the spot. And she made it work. So well done. And then Sandra was all around good. And what I picked up is she used another R word. Instead of restart, reset, refocus, she used the word refined. I like that better than restart and refocus, and I'll tell you why, because it's not making a huge change all at once. It's just refining. It's just polishing the brass, if you will. It's just buffing it up a little, not making a huge bombastic change. It's refining. If we could refine ourselves and our speaking just a little bit every day, then we would at some point be at a real restart and refocus. But we've got to start with baby steps. So the word refined was really granular to me, and it made sense, and it's very applicable to life in general. That's my grammarian report, folks. Thanks for the day, and take it away, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much. Refine. That's really is a good word. That's refine, reshape. There were so many something we can actually redo, right? All the time. That was really great, Sheila. It was and it was really wonderful. I just loved the table topics. We certainly learned a lot about each other, how we think about our lives, what we think, what we should do, and what we're doing. And I think that turned out to be a really great theme. So thank you, everyone. And now I go back to Sandra Savage, our president.
Thank you very much. This was a great meeting. It was intimate, and yet we allowed, Tamara, I can't get over the questions you asked in table topics. It was a great way for us to share more about ourselves and also to be vulnerable. It's okay to be vulnerable, like David said about having to ask for help. Who doesn't like to help someone else? I enjoy helping people because I like to see people thrive, move on, renew, refresh, all of those things. So that's what we do here at MoE is we help each other, and it's a good feeling at the end of each meeting. Now, we are at the end of the meeting, and I'd like to surprise Vicki for next meeting to have all of the roles filled as much as we can, but I'm also going to lean on a few people to help us as well. So I'm going to plead with you one more time to renew your dues, renew your commitment to this club. As I wrote the other day, we've really come a long way in the last few years. I'm so proud every meeting I go to and they don't know how to do evaluations or they haven't done anything more than the basics. I show them our little slide that has what to evaluate on. We've really come a long way. And I think we're getting better and better with each speech as a result of getting in-depth evaluations. So thank you all for the growth that we've had. Let's get a few more members to attend. We've got a great agenda next on the 20th. Invite a friend and impress them with our club, and we'll encourage them to join. That is the rest of my closing remarks. Thank you all for coming today and participating. We were a small group, but that was to be expected after all the conferences and training and everything that's been going on the last few months. Now we're back to normal. And so let's have a great meeting on the 20th. If you have any ideas or want my link to those cards so that you have some nice cards to think of to use for table topics, for speech ideas, for educational moments, for themes. There's, I think, about 150 of them up there already. So